guys, welcome back. It's Josh with the Financial Advisor Car Guy. So this week I wanted to visit with you guys a little bit about the things that we do to get top dollar whenever we're trying to sell a car. Now, I know in a prior video I was discussing selling our BMW. I didn't get a chance to really go through and get that car dialed in quite the way I wanted to, so it did not look as I would have liked for it to. It looked great in the pictures, it looked really nice and everything in the still pictures. But when it came down to actually showing the car, fortunately, it was the very first people that came and looked at the car that bought it. But I wasn't very impressed with the condition of the car when I was showing it to these guys. Looking back, the headlights were a little fogged over. It was a 2008 car. It was an older car, stock headlights, and they'd kind of started to frost over, if you will. And so I would have liked to have had those cleared. There were some scuffs and things in the paint that would buff out, but just with washing the car, it wouldn't have come off. I would have needed to use maybe a rubbing compound and get some of that stuff out. Conditioning the leather and those kind of things are things that I would have liked to have done to get the car in tip-top shape. Generally, those are the kind of things that help you command top dollar. All that to say, the Challenger. I've had a million tire kickers. I've actually only had one person come and look at it and test drive it, and it was a younger kid and his mom. The kid was all over it, wanted to have it, had to have it, and the mom basically said he's going to try to race people and maybe get tickets, and not a good car for a 16 or 17-year-old kid. So they ended up not buying it, and that's quite all right. I've been driving it every day. It's still my daily driver, and I'm still enjoying it. But the more I drive it, the more I want to get things dialed in, right? Because I get to spend some time in the car and I want to enjoy it. So many times when we are getting ready to sell a car, we wash it, right? You want to get it clean, you want to get it nice, you want to get it to a point where anybody who comes and looks at it is going to be attracted to the car. It's going to look nice. I think that's a shoo-in, that's a given. We all know that. You want to probably do a quick detail on the interior. Maybe not even a quick detail. If you have time to do it right, spend some time and condition the leather and shampoo the carpets and, steam clean the floor mats and, wipe out the vents and all those things. Get the fingerprints off the touchscreen or whatever. All those things, you want to make sure that you're getting things as dialed in as possible. You may also want to, polish the wheels, polish the chrome, wipe everything down, get everything looking nice, get some touch-up paint, all of the things that make the car more appealing. So when it comes to the Challenger, that's exactly what I've done. The car is dirty right now, so this isn't a great example showing you this car over my shoulder, but realistically what I've kind of done is gone around the car with touch-up paint, and there were some little scrapes and scratches and nicks and chips and things like this. It's not a perfect car, never has been, never will be, but conceptually, I wanted to get it looking as good as possible. So I did go around the car from one corner all the way around back to that corner, so I knew I didn't miss anything, and touched up quite a bit of paint. Touching up the wheels. I painted these wheels. That was the very first mod I did to this car. I don't even think I owned the car 12 hours and the wheels were off and getting painted. So there'd been a couple of nicks and scratches because it was just a rattle can job. They weren't powder coated, so that paint is not a permanent fix. I had to touch a couple things up there. Looking around at, like the fuel door filler, this thing was painted black, or there was a black one on the car when I bought it. One of the first mods I did there was I just ordered a new one. They weren't very much money. It's beautiful. There's no watermarks. There's no water spots. There's no nothing on it. It is perfect. So buffing that and just cleaning that up, making it look nice. Obviously you don't want to sell a car that has light bulbs out. So check your blinkers, check your turn signals, fog lights, headlights, all those things. Another thing is an oil change, right? A lot of the tire kickers that came and looked at this car wanted to know, when was the last time the oil was changed? When was the last time maintenance was done? Obviously, you want to keep a good record of all those things, and you want to make sure that you've done it recently. So just last Saturday, I went and got the oil changed in this car. So now I can legitimately show someone a receipt and say, you know what, it was changed on the 1st or whatever day that was. And so, realistically, the idea of there is just to make sure that things look good. I've got a neighbor stopping. Sorry about that. I had a neighbor stop by to tell me he just bought a new Camaro, a 2022 with 650 horsepower and 700 foot-pounds of torque, or some crazy monster of a car. Not sure. I'll have to go check that out. But he was just driving out of here and wanted to say hi. He saw me outside and wanted to say hey. So sorry for that interruption. Maybe you'll see that car in a future episode. I don't know. He was all excited for me and for himself. He wants to go race that thing, and he asked me where I go race my cars, and I had to break it to him that I don't race my cars. So anyway, but back to the detailing side of things, you know, getting your car ready for sale. Yeah, getting that oil change is important because, yeah, you want to make sure that you've got maintenance on the car. It also will do some bit of an engine inspection, right? I mean, they tell you when you get your oil changed, are there any leaks? Are there any issues? Are there any cracks in any of the lines or in any of the fluid reservoirs or any of those things, right? Someone's going to be looking that over. You also get a new fuel filter and fresh fluids. So bonus, bingo, that's what people are after. So make sure the maintenance is up to date and have receipts for all that stuff, right? You want to get your tires inflated properly, all those things, filled and topped off and whatever else. Maybe make sure the windshield wipers are in good shape. Make sure everything opens and closes as it should. Doors, hoods, trunks, lids, everything. Just make sure everything works as it should. You know, other things to consider, this circling back to my BMW, my wife and I lived with the TPMS sensor light on in that car for probably two and a half years. Rewind the clock a long ways. We went on a road trip. I had a small ice chest in the trunk of the car and it tipped over. In the back of those BMWs, underneath the spare tire is where a lot of the electronics are. Fuse box is not down there, but a lot of the sensors and circuitry and those kind of things are stored in a little compartment down there. Well, I fried the brain to my TPMS computer, and it wasn't expensive. It's about maybe a $75 sensor that I buy, plug and play, right? I mean, I just put in my VIN number on Google, found the exact piece, ordered it up, and it arrived a couple days later. So no big deal. What happened was, because it got wet, it actually fried the wiring harness. So I had to splice in a new harness, which was not easy to find. The long and short of it was, it never really worked after I fixed it. So I didn't really fix it. I spliced in the new harness, put in the new chip or the new sensor computer thing, and the TPMS light was still on. It took me literally deciding to sell the car to really dig in and investigate what the problem was. And it was two things. First and foremost, the tire pressure monitoring system fuse was blown, and that was in the trunk. So that was something I had to kind of uncover, put a new fuse in there. And then I had to go into the computer system within the dash, reset the system completely. So it was a two-step process. Even if I had found the reset button inside the computer system, it wouldn't have worked because of the fuse. So it took me checking all the fuses to find that. And that was actually the reason that I was looking through all the fuses, was just to make sure there were none blown. Again, in preparation for selling that car, I wanted to make sure that everything worked, and our heated seats in that car were aftermarket. What ended up happening is, if the heated seats were on and something was plugged into the cigarette lighter, it would overload the circuit and blow the fuse. So I was actually wanting to make sure that that fuse had been replaced, and I couldn't remember which fuse it was. So I just started pulling one fuse after the next. Eventually figured out that the TPMS fuse was blown, replaced that fuse. The TPMS light was still on, so I did some Googling and discovered that, yeah, you actually have to go into the system, reset it, and then drive for like 3 miles while all the sensors rebalance themselves to the tires and check the pressure and all that stuff. And then the light eventually goes off. So I was able to clear that light, which was awesome. I wish I'd done it 2.5 years ago, rather than just live with that light on in the dash. Now, that was the only light on in the dash in that case, but it's not uncommon to buy a car. You know, this one didn't ever have a check engine light, but I've bought cars in the past that had check engine lights, and sometimes they were really easy to fix. Other times they were very difficult to fix or very expensive to fix. and you just sort of live with them. The TPMS stuff, not detrimental. It's certainly not a check engine light, but usually when you're buying a high quality car, you don't really want to have lights on in the dash. So it was important to me to fix that, which is why I spent the time and the money to do so. Other than that, I would say just keep the car clean inside and outside. Keep the engine bay clean. Don't carry junk around in your trunk. Make sure that everything is always presentable. And again, I'm not giving you the best example because this car, maybe it looks all right on camera, but it's filthy. There is definitely a layer of dust and dirt on here that needs to get washed off. But I'll be honest with you, it's about 35 degrees out here. So if I start washing the car, it's gonna turn to an ice block, and then my driveway turns into a skating rink, and I'm just not interested in that right now. So it's gonna remain dirty, at least until the weather warms up a little bit, or until somebody wants to come see it, in which case then I'll freeze and wash the car for them. But in the meantime, like I said, I'm continuing to drive it. Look for little things here and there that might be an upgrade to the next buyer. Looking at the Challenger, for me, when I bought the car, you can see back here, maybe I can point to it. So like these blinker indicators here were tinted, but the ones up front were not. They were bright orange. And so, what I ended up doing is when I took that front bumper off to kind of realign it and make it fit a little better and change out the headlights months ago, I went ahead and tinted those so that they would also be the same. I wanted everything to match and look, uniform. I don't really want tinted back markers and bright orange front markers. So, little things like that are important. Pay attention to detail, because if you're not, someone else is, and that can make or break a car sale. And then if you walk around and look at other things, I don't know, aftermarket stuff needs to be working and installed correctly. And, I don't know, there's tips and tricks and things that you got to pay attention to. And I've bought and sold enough cars to kind of figure out how to fix things in an effective way, how to keep things maintained, and rotate your tires, do those kind of things, because people want to know. Anybody who's looking to buy a car, they want to know, what are the quirks with it? If you can figure out how to accessorize it in a positive way, do so. I mean, down to the license plate frame, right? A bare license plate doesn't look near as attractive as a license plate that has a frame on it. Now, I didn't buy this frame. It came on the car. I repainted it so it looked fresh and new because it was looking kind of shabby before. But, just little things like that take 2 minutes, no effort, very easy to handle and take care of, and it'll make a world of difference. Here, I'll walk around back to the front. But one thing that I did on this car, that if you recall from prior videos, it used to have a tint strip across the top of the windshield. It came down to about here. It was insane. It was like 8 inches or 10 inches of windshield that was covered with a tint strip that went clear across. And it made the inside of this car so dark. I mean, driving at night was so impossible because everything was so dark. It was terrible. And I kind of liked how it looked. It did keep the interior really cool through the summer. But again, with resale in mind, is that really the best thing for the next owner? So the long and short of it is I ended up peeling that tint strip off, only spent a few minutes rewashing the windshield and getting everything good. But now if I sit inside the car, a lot more light gets in there. It's not near as dark as it once was. And I mean, looking at it, it doesn't look bad. I feel like it always looked kind of like a drug dealer's car or something when the tint strip is like covering half the windshield. Not a great look. I mean, it's cool, whatever, but again, from resale standpoints, you want to make sure that you're doing everything you can that's in the best interest of the next owner. I've got a couple of dents and things in there. Let's see, you can't really catch them on the camera, but there are a couple of dents in the car. I would say being transparent in everything is going to be really the best way to conduct a sale. You don't want the buyer to come back at you and say, hey, you promised me all this stuff was done, and then I get home and the car's transmission falls out or whatever. So be honest, be upfront, show history, show records. Tell the buyer what it is that you've done to the car yourself. Tell them what you had done professionally. I think just those are the simple things, but it's make or break it. I mean, you can really ruin a deal, ruin your reputation in the car community. You can do a lot of damage to yourself by not being transparent and honest. And I don't want to see any of you guys get in trouble with that. I think it's not worth it. I guarantee you it isn't just not worth it. If you end up negotiating your car down a few $100, but keep a reputation, I would argue that is worth every dime. So that's all I got for you guys today. Hopefully you find some tips and tricks in this video. Some of it was just maybe not helpful, but maybe it was just a good reminder, because again, I think that a lot of the time you do need to be reminded of some of the simple things when it comes to buying or selling a car. So hopefully that was helpful. But please remember, like, subscribe, share this stuff, comment down below and let me know what else you'd like to see in the future. And as always, may every investment you make be a good one. Till next time.